Good afternoon and warm welcome to all at the webinar on pulmonary rehabilitation in post-COVID patients. Hello, myself Dr. Dvija Yagnik from Parul Institute of Physiotherapy. It is my pleasure to welcome our honorable speaker for today, Dr. Sumanta Ghosh. Sir has been done his master's in cardiorespiratory from the Delhi. Sir has also finished emergency respiratory care in pulmonary rehab from Netherlands. Sir is also certified trainer for basic life supports and advanced life supports, and this course he has finished from USA. Sir has been working as a senior physiotherapist more than 15 years, and also he is a founder of Spurs Physiotherapy Center in Delhi. So, sir, warm welcome for the webinar.
Hi, good afternoon all. It's an honor to be a part of the Parul University webinar, and thank you Dr. Sandeep Parekh for inviting me for this webinar on a very important topic in today's scenario, that is pulmonary rehabilitation for post-COVID patient. I think recently we have got a very great insight from one of the cabinet ministers of India, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, showing that he is undergoing pulmonary rehabilitation to overcome the post-COVID symptom. So post-COVID COVID, as we know, has been a major challenge to us in 2020, and it's going on. And I think we have been very actively taking part on the COVID care. So I'm just sharing my slides with you. Please confirm if anyone can confirm. Is my slides visible to all of you? Divija, can you please confirm?
Sir, you have to share first. Share the screen.
So now visible to everybody?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Today we are going to cover a very important topic, that is pulmonary rehabilitation in post-COVID patients. So what we are going to do is we going to see what we do for the post-COVID patients. Initially, what we do for the patient COVID patients in the ICU when they are in the hospital, and very importantly, once they are out of the hospital in the post-COVID stage, what are the things that we can do for them? And this is evidence-based pulmonary rehabilitation guidelines for the post-COVID patients. So in the acute care settings, as you all know, the most important thing for you before immunization and also after immunization is basically protecting yourself. Even basically without the armor, Karna could not basically protect himself in the fight of Mahabharata. So this is basically the PPE kits, and the mask has been our basically friends in throughout 2020 and 21 in protecting ourselves. So this is I think, and all of you know what kind of mask should be wear in what kind of condition. So this is very important. So COVID, and it is all of you know, as COVID causes type 1 respiratory failure, that is there is decrease in oxygenation in COVID. So it impairs the gaseous exchange in the alveolus level. So there is no exchange, and there is also basically something called as protein-rich fluid that fills up in the alveoli. So there is less exchange, and ultimately there is hypoxic injury to various parts. And apart from this, also the type 1 respiratory failure, what it does is also causes a lot of metabolic changes, and one of the very important metabolic changes is of the injury to the peripheral muscles or the skeletal muscles. There is basically a decrease in the type 2 fibers of the muscles, and this is basically is seen in most of the ICU patients. But also in COVID, what is happening is, apart from normal ICU loss of muscle mass, there is also significant muscle mass loss or muscle mass weakness in the core muscles and also small muscles. What we usually see, what we've been usually seeing for the last many years in the ICU is, post-ICU stay, there is major muscle loss or decrease of strength in the muscles, larger muscles like the quadriceps, like the hip flexors. But in here, what is happening is there is also involvement of the core muscles and also involvement of the small peripheral muscles. So before going to the pulmonary rehabilitation, one thing very important for COVID patient is the oxygen therapy, and this is very important for us as physiotherapists doing the pulmonary rehabilitation is also because oxygen, most of the post-COVID patients who are having these symptoms will be on oxygen therapy, and it is very, very important that we know what oxygen to give and when to give. So while considering the oxygen therapy, it is very important that we know this oxygen dissociation curve, and this curve, I think we have been knowing this curve since the physiology first year BPT days. So this is very important is what this curve gives is this is a correlation between the SpO2 or the saturation of oxygen that you see with the pulse oximeter and the partial pressure of oxygen that is available in the blood, and that you can see on the x-axis is basically your the oxygen saturation, and the y-axis is the partial pressure of oxygen. So what happens is there is a drastic drop of partial pressure of oxygen when the saturation comes below 88. So when the tipping point is around 88, so if a patient is still 88, he doesn't need much of oxygen therapy. But if his oxygen is going below 88, his PO2 levels or the partial pressure of oxygen in the blood goes drastically low. So what happens is he needs some kind of oxygen therapy in that. So our main aim in doing exercises or pulmonary rehabilitation is that we have to maintain a partial pressure of more than 50. That is, we have to maintain a saturation of about 85 at all times. So this is very important. So our main target is always to maintain a saturation above 88, and if the patient is also having comorbidity like COPD, we have to maintain it from 88 to 92. So oxygen therapy devices, all we know that we can use a nasal cannula, we can use a oxygen mask. So in active COVID patients, a nasal cannula is contraindicated because it produces a lot of aerosol and it should not be used. And in it is advisable that we use a oxygen mask along with the N95 mask covering it. So then we have also the critical care oxygenation devices, like we have the Venturi mask, and we also have the rebreathing mask that is mostly used in the ICU for 100% oxygen. And then we have the high flow oxygen machines that are also used in some of the patients. So our target is to maintain a saturation of 92 to 96 patients, 92 to 96% in normal patients, and 88 to 92, as I told you, in patients with comorbid conditions like COPD, because they will go into hypercapnic failure otherwise. Then we have the positioning in COVID patients. It is very, very important that we have been doing, I think, always. So awake proning has been going on for all the COVID patients who are in the stage 2 of COVID, or we are mild. So patients who doesn't require oxygen of less than 4 liters can be done with awake proning. So this has been done for active COVID patient. So you already know how to do active proning, and this is just an example. So we will do the prone patients for around 30 minutes. Then you go for the lateral incumbent position. Then you have to go to the right lateral. Then you have to go to the left lateral. Then also you have to do around semi-Fowler's position of 60 to 90 degrees. So then prone positioning in the ventilated patient is a lifesaver, or it is basically a rescue maneuver. So it has been done in many patients in COVID, and it has been very, very useful. So you should know what are the types of steps involved in basically doing the active proning or the ventilated proning. So this is basically a lifesaver maneuver. So we are short of time, otherwise I have to have shown you the steps involved in it. So this is about basically active COVID patient. One very important thing about active COVID patient is also airway clearance techniques. Airway clearance techniques, always remember, it produces a lot of aerosol. And when you produces a lot of aerosol, there are chances of cross infection. So be very, very, very careful while doing airway clearance techniques in any of the active COVID patient, because they will basically produce aerosols which will be dangerous. And so any cough generating moment or any PEP therapy devices, bubble PEP, your manual hyperinflation, open suction should be avoided in active COVID patients. So when a patient is COVID negative, you can definitely go away with the airway clearance techniques if the patient has excessive secretions. So now coming back to the movement in the ICU. So ICU, so there is something called as the RASS scale, or the Richmond Agitation Sedition Scale, that we use basically very commonly in the ICU. So according to the RASS scale, so if you see a RASS scale of 2 is basically patient if is awake, and if it is agitated, he is basically the RASS scale 2. So any patient who is below RASS scale 2, that is if it is restless, or he is alert and calm, or if it is drowsy, so we use basically, if it is less than 2, what we do is we start with passive movements 5 times for each joint, and then we do the stretchings, and then we can go ahead with passive cycling. We can do also basically electrical muscle stimulation. Biphasic current we can use for a duration of 60 minutes. You have the intensity of 45 hertz, and this you can use. Then we can also use continuous passive movement 3 times a daily. And then we also can use splinting. So this is passive movement, this is passive cycling that you can do, then this is electrical muscle stimulation. So if the RASS scale is above 2, then we can go ahead with active assisted exercises and then active exercises. So intensity, what we have to do is, if you are following the box scale, we have to do intensity of 11 to 13. So it is the box scale, the original box scale. So you can also use the modified box scale. If you're using the modified box scale, it will be around 5 to 6. So duration would be around 8 to 10 repetitions, and 3 sets can be done, and then slowly increase. And then also your functional activities like standing, sitting, and then balance training can be done. Now, post-COVID syndrome. So if what we see is that we are seeing is a large number of patients who are basically out of COVID, but still they are having a lot of comorbidities. That is like, so what is happening is the patient is having a lot of peripheral muscle weakness that I told you. There is metabolic changes and there is a lot of weakness in the peripheral muscles. And the interesting thing is, in the COVID patient, they are not only having the large muscle weakness, but they are also having the weakness of the core muscles, which is causing again a problem in the breathing, and requires breathing rate training, and also they are causing the weakness of the small muscles also. So what is happening? Because of this, the endurance is going down, the strength is going down, and because of the strength and the endurance going down, the patient is doing less activity, his quality of life is deteriorating day by day, his respiratory muscles are weak, and then this basically overall it is causing a depression and psychological weakness in these patients. And there is also something called as mental blockout that is happening in many of the COVID patients. So this overall things, and plus there is also a lot of nutritional deficiency in the patients who are having a longer ICU stay or a longer ventilation, are having a lot of nutritional deficiency on this also. So this is a typical patient with COVID. So what we can offer more? So we can offer is pulmonary rehabilitation. Pulmonary rehabilitation is a very, very important part of respiratory care. So pulmonary rehabilitation is a comprehensive basically intervention based on a patient's thorough assessment, and it is tailor-made for every patient. It should be tailor-made. The guidelines are there, but it can be tweaked or changed according to each of the patient. And it is not only limited to exercise training, education, and behavior change, but it is also basically to see the improvement in the functional capacity, the psychological condition of the patient. So it is to overall see at everything and to do the changes. So Divija, are we connected to the audience? Can somebody respond?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Great. So what are the main components of pulmonary rehabilitation aimed at? So pulmonary rehabilitation, the main components are aimed to reduce the hospitalization and to reduce the unscheduled hospital visits, and to improve, more importantly, to improve the exercise capacity, because the exercise capacity of the post-COVID patients is severely less. They can If they suppose they were able to exercise for 30 minutes previously, now they are able to do it only for 5 minutes, or maybe not that also. Maybe they used to walk for 100 meters or 200 meters earlier. Now they are not able to do so. So this is basically to be improved. So then basically to reduce the symptoms, other symptoms like dyspnea, that is the breathlessness, is a very, very important symptom in the post-COVID patient, that has to be reduced. Improve limb strength or lower limb and upper limb growth, and improve the health-related quality of life and the functional capacity. So what are the main components of pulmonary rehabilitation? The main components of pulmonary rehabilitation, one of the most important part is the aerobic exercises to improve the endurance of the patient, the strength training to improve basically the upper limb strengthening, the lower limb strengthening is very, very important part of pulmonary rehabilitation. The neuromuscular electrical stimulation also helps in pulmonary rehabilitation. Inspiratory muscle training, that is giving a resistance while basically doing the breathing, is like doing dumbbell for the peripheral muscles, like you do a dumbbell for a bicep. It is inspiratory muscle is basically doing the dumbbell for the diaphragm or the respiratory muscle. So this is very important. Balance training is one of the very important part of pulmonary rehabilitation. Education is very, very important part of pulmonary rehabilitation, because if the patient is not educated about the condition, if it doesn't know how to do the exercises, if it doesn't know how to basically go forward with the monitoring that is to be done, then the whole purpose gets dissolved. Then psychological and behavioral components of pulmonary rehabilitation like cognitive behavioral therapy is very, very important. Then oxygen supplementation, as we discussed earlier, is very, very important in COVID and is to be monitored, and it is to be titrated also. That means oxygen can be increased or decreased after basically discussion with the prescribing physician. We can also oxygen decrease and oxygen according to the patient's improvement or basically deterioration. Then on non-invasive ventilation plays a very important role in pulmonary rehabilitation, and also nutritional supplementation. So pulmonary rehabilitation key in an outpatient department like a large hospital, it is basically a program director is one of the respiratory directors, and then pulmonary rehab in charge is a respiratory physiotherapist or consultant respiratory physiotherapist, and then pulmonary rehabilitation nurses are also there in some of the other countries, not in India much. Psychologist is a very, very important part. Nutritionist is very, very important part of the pulmonary rehab team. Then the main focus of pulmonary rehabilitation in post-COVID patient. So the main focus of pulmonary rehabilitation in post-COVID patient is the endurance, because I told you the endurance of the post-COVID patient is very, very less. What we have seen is there are many studies also that are coming up, and some studies are in also publication. What is happening is after a basically ICU stay of around 7 days, there is a severe decrease in the endurance or the functional capacity of the patient. The patient is hardly able to walk for around 200 meters or 300 meters. So this is our main focus. Then strength training, as I told you, there's a metabolic changes and the strength of the body is quite down, along with the large muscles as also with the core muscles and the smaller peripheral muscles. And the respiratory capacity is also severely down, and the patient is having a lot of breathlessness or dyspnea. So he needs breathing retraining that we will show how to do it. Then inspiratory muscle training, as I told you, is a dumbbell for diaphragmatic muscles. So that should be done. Then psychological and behavioral components like cognitive behavioral therapy. So you have to do the assessment. So what are the baseline or the outcome measurements that should be measured? So one of the very, very important basically baseline measurement in the pulmonary rehabilitation for the post-COVID patient is a functional test. So functional test, one of the very, very simple functional test is the SPPP, that is basically the short physical performance battery. What is this? It basically has fewer subsections. So it has something called as a standing balance. It has something called as a gait speed, and also it has got to sit to stand. So it basically gives what is the functional status of the patient, and it is very simple to perform. And it is readily available in the internet. I can also share with you guys. It is very, very easy to perform, and it should be done with every post-COVID patient, because we should know what is the actual functional status of the patient so that we can further improve his functional status. Then respiratory muscle testing. What is the respiratory muscle strength of that patient? So if you have basically device to measure the peak inspiratory pressure of the patient. So measure what is the actual strength of the respiratory muscle, that is well and good. Or a small PFT can give you basically what is the respiratory muscle functioning. Or also you can do, basically there are also other tests like manual MMT of the muscle. That is not very accurate, but you can also do that. So that is very important. Then exercise. What is the exercise capacity of the patient? So ideally a 6-minute walk test should be performed. But in some of the COVID patients, you may not be able to do the 6-minute walk test because it is a very long duration. 6 minutes is a very long duration. So you can do a modified 2-minute walk test. That is also can be done. Or a simple step test. 2-minute step test can be done. So that can be done. The dyspnea should be measured at the baseline as well as after every session. The exertional dyspnea scale, the box scale, the modified box scale of 10 points can be used, and also the MRC scale can be used. And then the psychological status is a must to be measured while you are starting the pulmonary rehabilitation. And it is very, very easy to basically measure. There is a 7-question questionnaire that is available, that is called the Hospital Anxiety and Depression Score. If you are using the mobile phone, you can go to the app score and just write HAD, 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 and there will be an app, free app called HAD app, and you can install it. And there are 7 questions, and after you do ask the 7 questions and take the answers from the patient, so you will get what is the psychological score, what is the anxiety score, and what is the depression score of the patient. It is very, very easy to perform, and it should be done for every patient. Then nutritional assessment. Nutritional assessment is also very important. So nutritional assessment in terms of what is his diet now, what is his eating, and with that, suppose he is eating around 1 katori of dal, so you can get what that he might be eating only 5 grams or 2 grams. So you can also see the nutritional requirement of a body is around 1 gram per kilo ideal body weight of the patient. So maybe he is very less. Maybe your basically nutritional aim will be to increase the protein intake of that patient. So very, very important. So, and then also there is something called the behavioral domain in pulmonary rehabilitation that is very important. Adherence to exercise therapy. How good is he doing? So even if you do a face-to-face session once a week or twice a week or thrice a week, maybe an online session or maybe a telephonic session will help him much to adhere to the exercise regime. And then adherence to medication and diet. So what our medication has been given, and most importantly, why diet instruction has been given, should be thoroughly basically followed. And then good and proper use of supplemental oxygen is very, very important. Remember, oxygen is a medicine and it should be used properly. Overdose can cause problem as well as lower dose can cause a problem. Then knowledge of the disease should be also shared. So what we'll do is, are we connected, everyone?
Sir, you have to do again the slideshow. Like
I
present your screen.
I just disconnected because I'll be showing some of the techniques actually breathing retraining.
You just said you just do the present now. Screen present. Present your screen.
No, I'm not showing the screen. I'm just showing the video now. I'm just showing the demonstration. Okay. Then I'll again share the screen. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So breathing retraining is basically you doing breathing exercises. All of you know how to do the diaphragmatic breathing exercises. So you keep one hand on the chest, one hand on the abdomen above the diaphragm. What you do is keep the upper chest and the upper, basically your accessory muscles, like the sternocleidomastoid and the sklenitis on rest. Try to keep them on rest and try to keep breath with the diaphragm, and then with a pursed lip breathing, breathe out. Now it is very, very, your post-COVID patient may not be able to do this, because what he will do is he will face a lot of issue in doing this. So what will happen is you can do a diaphragmatic scoop technique. You can take one of your hand and basically do a scoop technique here, push the diaphragm a little bit up, and tell him to breathe against your hand initially, and put one hand here and one thumb here to relax the sternocleidomastoid and the skleni, relax the thoracic muscles, and just activate the diaphragm. So this will basically retrain him to use his diaphragm more than the accessory muscles. This is very important. Then other very important thing is doing pursed lip breathing with every breathing. So any breathing retraining exercise you teach him, you have to teach the patient also the pursed lip breathing. Pursed lip breathing creates a peak inside, because what is happening is there is collapse of the alveoli in the lungs that is happening because of the decreased exchange and the protein there. So what you have to do is keep the open alveoli open. To keep the alveoli open, what you need is a PEP, that is a positive expiratory pressure. So when you do pursed lip breathing, what happens is you're creating a positive pressure inside. So it is basically trying to keep the alveoli open. So this is very, very important. So another very important basically thing in breathing retraining is doing thoracic expansion exercises. Like you do this, hands up with breathing in and breaths down with breathing out. So maybe 10 times for three sets, and then thoracic expansion exercises like this also. Breathe in, expand your chest, and then breathe out, bring your chest down. You can also use TheraBands here to do the thoracic expansion exercises. Put a TheraBand in here and then tell him to expand the chest. So this can be done. This is very, very important. Breathing retraining is a first step of pulmonary rehabilitation that is to be done. Once a patient is trained in breathing retraining, then only hence go forward with the other basically types in pulmonary rehabilitation. So I'll just share my screen again. So is my PPT visible now?
Yes, sir.
So now what, after a patient is basically trained in breathing retraining, now what you have to do is you have to do inspiratory muscle training. So this is an inspiratory muscle training device. The very low cost device, around 2,000 rupees, can be given to every patient. What is this is basically one and the only thing that can increase the strength of the diaphragm. What happens is you can see that there are various levels set here. This is the pressures, the resistance that you can put in with the red color. You just rotate it and put it into a resistance. So how much resistance to actually put? So what you do is basically, first, before doing that, it is ideal that we do an inspiratory muscle pressure check, or the PI max test. So according to that, we use 30% of PI max as the training's basically goal. But if you don't have PI max, you can put a resistance. You can ask the patient what he is feeling around box scale 5 to 6. That is hard or very hard. Somewhere the resistance should be between hard to very hard in the modified box scale, or the rate of perceived exertion. It should be between hard and very hard. So what is the protocol for doing inspiratory muscle training is basically the patient is seated. There is a nose clip that is attached to the patient, and training is started with a warm-up session of 1 minute. So suppose if you're doing it for basically you want to put a pressure of 30. So initially for first 1 minute, you'll put a pressure of 15 resistance and do 1 minute of warm up, and then you have to do interval based training. So interval based training is very, very important in post COVID patient, because the post COVID patient is very tired or very weak. He cannot do continuous exercises for basically longer times. In any form of exercise you do for the this post-COVID patient, it has to be divided in interval base. It should be interval based training. So in interval based training, what you do for inspiratory muscle training is 2 minutes of resisted exercises, then complete 1 minute of rest and 2 minutes of resisted exercises. And this 3 minute, 2 minute of activity, 1 minute of rest, this can go up to basically 7 times. So start with maybe 4 times and then slowly increase it to 7 times. 7 times means 3 minutes into 7, there will be 21 minutes of inspiratory muscle training that the patient has to do at least for 4 to 5 days a week. This is the inspiratory muscle training record form that you have to keep. So what we do is do a 1 minute warm up and then cycle 1. Cycle 1 is 2 minutes of activity, 1 minute of rest, and you note how much pressure or load you have given. So if suppose you have given a load of 12 centimeters, you write 12, and slowly you can increase. So perceived exertion, basically the resistance should be that the rate of perceived exertion, or in the box modified scale, should be between 4 to 6. That it should be between somewhat hard to very hard. So now going to the next topic is basically the strength testing and the strength training. So strength testing and the training is a very, very important part of your pulmonary rehabilitation in post-COVID patient, because the peripheral muscles are the most in pulmonary rehabilitation. So what we do is you do basically the simplest way to measure the strength of the individual is to do a test of one repetition maximus, one repetition maximum, or one RM, as you know, is basically giving various weights to the patient and see what weight he can basically lift for only one time. But this is very impractical in COVID patients or in respiratory patients. So basically this is very, very impractical. So is it feasible for post-COVID patient? My answer would be no. So what we have been doing in pulmonary rehabilitation for respiratory patients over the years, and also applied it to the post-COVID patient, is also use a basically derivative equation like a Brzezinski equation. So in Brzezinski equation, how do you calculate 1 RM is you do 1 RM calculation is 100. You do 100 multiplied into load repetition to how much weight. Suppose you have given basically 500 grams. So you write 100 into 0.5 and divided by 102.78 minus 2.78 into how many repetitions have you done with that 500 gram. So that will give you the 1 RM of that. And then whatever is the 1 RM that has come up. So suppose 1 RM has come up to be 20 for a patient. So 20, you will be starting with 30% of that 20 and slowly increasing it. So before going to strength training about the weight, before giving the weight to the basically patient for doing the strength training. So the most important thing is also the functional movement strengthening. So that is very, very important with the strengthening of the core muscles, like your simple quadruped basically position, the modified plank position, the bridges, stair climbing, the lunges, squats, as tolerated by the patient, because some patients will tolerate this, some patients will not tolerate. The repetition should also be very, very less, maybe 5-second hold initially, then go to 10-second hold. Like, so you have to slowly increase the functional. So if you see the functional exercises, you can start with basic bridging exercise. Maybe a simple bridging would be also very, very hard for a post-COVID patient to do, but you have to teach them slowly. Then you have to do the basically quadruped position. That can be also basically very hard. If he is able to maintain the position, then you can do a cat and camel exercises for the core strengthening in the same position. Then you can do modified plank. So the patient may not be able to do a full plank, but you can do the modified plank by bending the knee and taking the support of the knee. You can do a modified plank for this patient. This functional activities, then sit to stand, then slowly stair climbing. These are very, very important in basically your strength training of the pulmonary rehabilitation in post-COVID patient. Then we come to actual strength training. Then actual strength training you can do with the weights. So you can use a dumbbell. We have been using a lot of weight cuffs. That is very feasible to do. So really always remember, when you are doing strength training for this patient, please monitor the saturation, the heart rates at all times, because there is a lot of metabolic changes in this patient. The respiratory capacity is also not same. So the saturations may drop. It is advisable that you use a pulse oximeter to monitor the saturation levels while doing the exercises. It will be very helpful to you. So strength training can be started with the major muscle groups like shoulder flexion, shoulder abduction with the weight cuffs. And you can basically do a very, very small 3 sets you can do with very, very small repetitions at the beginning, maybe 5 repetitions, and slowly going to 10 repetitions. And what is the resistance you have to keep? You have to keep whatever is the 1 RM, keep a resistance of 30% and slowly increase it to 70% of 1 RM. Don't increase in one day. Go slow, because this COVID patients may not be able to cope up. Same with the lower limb exercises. You have to do only for 2 to 3 days a week. So remember, strength training should be done for 2 to 3 days a week only, not the whole 4 days or the 5 days of the week. Only 2 to 3 days, maybe 2 once, and then alternate days it can be done. Maybe 3 days a week or 2 days a week initially. So functional exercises we have already discussed. Then aerobic training is fundamentally the most important part of the pulmonary rehabilitation program, that is the endurance training. So it is advisable that I was speaking about to do continuous saturation monitoring and heart rate monitoring in the initial phase of pulmonary rehabilitation in all post-COVID patients. And a focused and a well-designed aerobic exercise is very important when you basically patient spends a lot of time and attending the pulmonary rehabilitation. So it is very important that he learns the aerobic exercises very, very nicely. So there is evidence-based guidelines for pulmonary rehabilitation that indicate that aerobic exercises are very, very important. And what it says is doing it for the large muscle group is more beneficial than the small groups. That is, doing a leg aerobic exercise is much more helpful than doing a arm ergometry, right? So this is what the basically researchers say for the respiratory diseases. For COVID, we have to find out, but COVID also, it seems that the more affected are the lower limb muscles, the patient exercise capacity is very, very less. So that's why I have told you the first thing that we have to assess is basically the functional status. So functional activity is the best way of doing aerobic exercise is to start basically make the patient walk. So start the patient, making the patient walk, doing a little bit of brisk walk with the monitoring of the continuous pulse oximetry. If it's an oxygen, plus 2 with oxygen, the walking should be with oxygen. And if he's slowly able to bear without oxygen, and without oxygen he can walk basically maintaining a saturation of above 88%, then you can be allowed to do without oxygen also after discussion with the physician. So this then cycle ergometry can also be done. So aerobic exercises are very, very important. And while doing the aerobic exercises, you have to see what basically best suits for the patient. So for some patients, mainly he may be able to do only walking. Some patients may be able to do a static cycle or a cycle ergometer, right? So aerobic exercises, it should be performed for around 30 minutes a day. And remember, in post-COVID patient, this 30 minutes has to be divided into an interval of 10 minutes. So it cannot be 30 minutes continuous. It may be 10 minutes, then 10 minutes break, then 10 minutes, then 10 minutes break. So like this, you have to do the aerobic exercises, 10 minutes bout. And then you have to do it. Aerobic exercises should be done 3 to 4 days a week. It is a must that he does the aerobic exercises. That is an important thing. And the aim is to do 30 minutes of aerobic exercises at least 3 days a week and for at least 6 to 8 weeks to give some good results. So now what is the basically at what pace the patient should walk, and what basically the if he's doing a cycling, at what intensity he should be, what should be the monitoring, because in strength training we know we do 30% of 1 RM that we have to do the resistance. In aerobic exercise, what is the resistance or what is the level that you have to do? So what you can do is use the Carbonine formula that I think all of you have used in the BPT 4th year and also in the master's degree. So basically Carbonine formula is for the target heart rate. It is nothing but target heart rate is equal to the heart rate max. So what is the maximum heart rate of the patient? So heart rate max is 220 minus the age you will get. And then what is the heart rate at the rest of the patient? Suppose the patient is having a resting heart rate of 80. So you put it 80 into intensity. So you start with 30% intensity and plus heart rate rest. So this will basically give an example. At 30% intensity, what will be the, suppose the example is given here, at 50% intensity, if the patient is having a heart rate max of 180 and a resting heart rate of 70, his 50% intensity with using this Carbonine formula, that what he should be doing the cycling or walking is at 125 heart rate or 135 beats per minute. If he does it cycling, he is doing a good aerobic exercises. So if you find it difficult to use the Carbonine formula, you can also use the very, very easy box perceived exertion scale that we use in the inspiratory muscle training also, if EIMAX is not available. So that can also be done. One major advantage of the this RP scale is that it is basically very easy to use, and it is very good relationship with the heart rate and the VO2. So that can be used. And now also you have got this smart bands that has come. They are not very reliable, but still they are somewhat reliable. They can be used while doing the exercises, so the patient has the feedback at all times. So this is there. The RP can be used basically to use, and this is the modified RP or the modified box scale. So this when you are using the RP, the basically exertion or the level of aerobic exercise should be between 3 to 5. So you start with 3, that it should be moderate exertion, and then slowly increase it to 5. So this is about the pulmonary rehabilitation in the post-COVID patient, and we have a new world in horizon now. And I think hopefully with the vaccination drive and everything, we will. But there will be a lot of patients who will be having this post-COVID symptoms for a long time and will be requiring our help to live in this world. So I think best wishes to everyone so that we can help the largest number of patients that we can. Thank you very much. If any questions, please do ask me the questions. I'll stop sharing the screen now. So any questions?
Okay, sir. So,
Any questions from Facebook Live?
no, sir.
No.
No.
Were people able to join in the Facebook Live session?
Yes, sir. Directly, they are able to join in the Facebook live session.
Okay.
Okay. So, sir, thank you so much. I hope the students are able to seek guidance from your topic. Okay, and it was a wonderful session. Okay, and we are very thankful to you for taking time out from your busy schedule and to enlighten us with the current topic. Okay, thank you so much, sir, once again.
Thank you very much. And I think if anybody has any query on pulmonary rehabilitation, do connect to me. My mail ID will be shared to you by the team. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
And thank you, Dr. Sandeep Devija, for helping me out with the session. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Parul University. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, can we end the meeting right now?